Today in Sacramento, a landmark legal truce with Uber, a high-stakes testimony in the K Street murder trial, a Bay Area house race heating up, a push to keep robots out of CSU classrooms, and a late-night fuel thief caught by the smell of his own gas cans.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Leah, and welcome to Laid Back Local, the news of the day, with Leah and Garrett in Sacramento.
All right, let's set the stage for this one. First up, Defendant Payton testifies in Sacramento's deadliest mass shooting case. We're talking about the K Street shooting downtown in April 2022, that chaotic gunfight that left 6 people dead and 13 wounded right in the heart of our nightlife corridor. In Sacramento Superior Court, Matula Payton took the stand and said he fired back in self-defense. Prosecutors, meanwhile, argue it was a gang-related shootout involving Payton and co-defendant Dandre Martin. Payton is associated with the 29th Street Crips, and he spoke openly in court about his ties and his past. That's unusual candor for a defendant under this kind of spotlight. The jury's getting clashing timelines and motives, and as testimony continues, the big legal question is whether the shots he fired meet the definition of self-defense, meaning an immediate threat and a reasonable response under the circumstances. Beyond the law, this case puts a hard focus on how gang violence ripples through a city. Families, businesses, and bystanders are still living with the trauma from that night.
Let's unpack this. Separating fact from fear in a moment like that is brutally hard. You've got videos, witnesses, and people running for their lives. What got me is how direct Payton was about his gang ties and criminal history. Defendants usually keep that close, right? Why be that open on the stand? Maybe the defense thinks honesty builds credibility when the whole case hinges on intent, but it's still a risky move. And for our city, it's more than courtroom drama. It's about whether we can prevent the next flashpoint on a busy weekend night. Real talk, that's close to the heart of it for a lot of folks who are out there and still ride past K Street with their shoulders tense.
Yeah, that checks out. In a case this charged, jurors have to filter chaos into a clean timeline. That's tough. And for the community piece, it's not just about gang labels. It's about how quickly a crowd space becomes a danger zone and how we rebuild trust in those public places. I'm down for that conversation to keep going after the verdict, because prevention work doesn't stop at the courthouse door.
Okay, let's move on. Next up, Uber and the Consumer Attorneys of California just reached a landmark agreement, ending their expensive ballot measure firefight. Quick context. The Consumer Attorneys Group is a statewide association of plaintiff lawyers, and this deal pauses both sides' campaigns and spending. The framework heads to the legislature, aiming at safety and judicial reform. One big piece is medical liens. That's when a healthcare provider claims part of a legal settlement to cover medical bills. The idea is to limit how those liens stack up, while also requiring stronger safety measures for rideshare drivers and riders. Uber had planned to drop more than $25 million fighting this, so the truce signals a pivot to policy over advertising wars. Lawmakers would need to act fast to lock this in during the current session. And yes, it takes some heat off Governor Newsom, who could have been caught in the crossfire.
That's a solid point. Negotiation beat a spending arms race here. If the legislation lands right, it could balance consumer protection with a system that still, works day to day. And the safety context is heavy. Reports from 2017 through 2022 indicated Uber was receiving a sexual assault complaint about a driver roughly every 8 minutes. That's staggering. If this deal tightens safeguards and accountability without breaking the app for drivers or riders, that's progress.
Totally. And why the rush now? Because a bill beats a ballot in terms of speed and clarity. Voters would have faced dueling ads and legalese, whereas lawmakers can hash out definitions and timelines line by line. If they get it right, fewer court fights later. If they miss, well, we're back to the ballot box next cycle.
On the political front, showdown set in the East Bay for California's 14th congressional district. Former Dublin Mayor Melissa Hernandez advanced to an August runoff against State Senator Asha Wahab. Hernandez pulled about 16.8%, Wahab leads with roughly 42.8. For a quick explainer, a runoff is a head-to-head election when no one wins outright and voters get a second round. The district covers parts of Fremont, Hayward, and Livermore, not far from us, and it ties into our regional economy and transit. Both candidates will also meet again in November for the full-term seat. This all follows the April resignation of Eric Swalwell, who stepped down amid allegations of sexual assault and misconduct, which he denies.
What's the buzz here is how competitive this could get in a safely blue lane. Wahab's got the early lead. She's a state senator and previously served on Hayward's city council. Hernandez brings that mayor experience and a role on the BART board, which for folks who commute or care about regional transit really matters. This runoff feels like a stress test for what issues resonate most right now: cost of living, public safety, transit, housing. What a twist that a resignation created this two-election sprint. Opportunities open fast in politics, and so does scrutiny.
And for our side of the valley, those choices can ripple over here via federal dollars and transit coordination. It's one of those off-the-beaten-path connections that turns into real life when you're stuck on I-80 or watching BART expansion debates.
Switching gears just a little. Next up, California pushes for human-only professors in the CSU system amid AI concerns. Senate Bill 928 from State Senator Sabrina Cervantes would require that courses at California State University be taught by human faculty, not AI. The goal is to protect teaching positions and ensure quality. AI, or artificial intelligence, is software that can mimic human text and decision-making, but it doesn't actually understand the way people do. The bill passed the Senate in April and is now in the Assembly. If it clears that, it heads to the governor. The California Faculty Association backs the bill. They're the union representing CSU faculty. Meanwhile, CSU has been partnering with tech companies to integrate AI tools. Last year, it struck a system-wide deal for campus access to a version of ChatGPT, and there's been controversy around renewing those contracts.
Here's another angle to look at. I'm all about using smart tools to make learning smoother, like tutoring help or drafting outlines. But the professor is the heartbeat of a course. If SB 928 guards the core teaching role and still lets campuses pilot tech for, say, tutoring or accessibility, that's a workable middle lane. The line for me is simple. AI can assist. It shouldn't replace.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The CSU system renewed a controversial contract with OpenAI that runs about $13 million a year, even as faculty raised alarms. And there were talks in the ecosystem around using AI in sensitive areas like mental health counseling, which faculty flatly opposed. Counseling is human care. Students deserve that. So yeah, this bill is drawing a boundary line, not banning innovation, just saying class instruction stays human-taught.
Last up, fuel thief caught red-handed by Rocklin police after a graveyard hour spree. Rocklin, just northeast of Sacramento, has been dealing with overnight gas siphoning. Officers pulled over a 39-year-old man from Antelope and, during the stop, found burglary tools and multiple partially filled gas cans in the vehicle. The smell of gasoline, not gonna lie, was a giveaway. The suspect was on probation, which means he's under court supervision after a prior conviction, and that can allow officers to run compliance checks. Investigators are now connecting dots on reported thefts, and police are asking anyone who noticed missing fuel to file a report so they can build the case.
Keeping it real, that's a headache for families and small businesses. Fuel's not cheap, and replacing damaged tanks or lines adds insult to injury. Community vigilance helps. Cameras, motion lights, and a quick call when something looks off can make the difference. And for folks curious about probation checks, it's basically a tool to keep repeat offenses in check. If conditions are violated, officers can intervene sooner. I'm glad Rocklin PD moved fast on this one.
Thanks for joining us on Laid Back Local, the news of the day with Leah and Garrett in Sacramento. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.